Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan M.S. Pearce. This is a Ukraine war news update. The first part thereof for this 5th of May 2025. I'm getting all of my words and dates mixed up. We're going to start with the Ukrainian general staff figures, of course, as we normally do. You can find the caveats to this linked in the description below. I've already done a breaking news update this morning. I will mention it in passing as we go through these tabs. I've done a breaking news update on an incursion into Kursk from the Ukrainians. I don't think it'll be particularly big, but I think it'll be a statement with regard to Victory Day that is approaching in Russia. If we look at these stats, 1,260 personnel lost is there or thereabouts for the recent days and weeks. 5 tanks, 8 troop-carrying AFVs, both below the daily average. 43 artillery systems, double the daily average. 1 multiple launch rocket system, and 109 vehicles and fuel tanks. Nothing too significant there. It's obviously still active along the front line, but not crazily so, if these numbers are reflective, as I think they should be. But I have to say there's a lot of footage coming out and a lot of claims from different units with regard to what's been going on the front line. Some incredible stats from some of these units. So let's look at a few claims. In just 1 week in the Kupiansk direction, the Phoenix Regiment destroyed a Tor M2 air defense system, 2 S-19 Mr. S, 3 tanks, 30mm 2A42 cannon, 17 military trucks and 3 vehicles. So that's just 1 week, just one sort of drone unit. Quite incredible. And these montages are coming out thick and fast at the moment. And I'm wondering whether this has anything to do with the Brave One system of points, gaining points to be able to spend that on equipment that is kind of reinforcing good practice and success, so that the best units do get the most points, and the most points get them the best kit, and the best kit gets them destroying more units, and it's a virtuous cycle. There's been this friendly competition going on between all of these units as they try and accrue as many points as possible, and you get points for destroying vehicles and for killing personnel. It seems pretty harsh, really, but actually, you know, it's a gamification of a very serious context, the war, the battlefield. But actually, it's human nature to want to compete with your fellow people trying to do the same things as you, and actually it seems to be working a treat. And I'm wondering whether these, because they have to provide evidence, each unit has to provide evidence to, like, I don't know whether it's called the Brave One system. Brave One is seems to be the Amazon type website that they use to order this equipment. They can buy it outright, or they can, I think, use points to get it. But because they have to provide evidence for their successes so that they can, you know, be apportioned these points, they have obviously these videos ready to go. And I think you might see an uptick in videos being released that sits alongside this whole system of accruing points. So we are starting to see, for example, the whole, like, particularly drone units just throwing out all sorts of stuff. Here, the 412th Nemesis Regiment disabled 160 artillery systems. So when we go back to these figures and we see on a daily basis, artillery systems are all over they are. Every day we're seeing double the daily average, to the point where the daily average must be shooting up. In fact, it's be interesting to see what the daily average was. I remember when it was, you know, sort of below 20, and now we're above 20. I always thought we were about 21 for artillery as a daily average. Now let's look at where it might be. It's just going up consistently. My goodness, there's a readjustment from yesterday, putting the artillery up to 93. I wonder why that was. Shown as 52, but it should be plus 93 according to previous day and the next day totals. This is why he's absolutely brilliant, Dell, when he does these stats, is that, you know, not only do you look at the daily numbers, but you see how that tallies with the running total, and the running total suddenly jumps up. That's probably a readjustment along the lines for other pieces of kit being added. There might well have been, you know, a unit that's thrown another bunch of videos in for previous weeks or so. I don't know. The idea is that when you cross-reference these numbers, sometimes they shift and there's a readjustment. So that's interesting. So that will, again, will push up the daily average. So what are we on a daily average now? Well, that's gone up to 23.4 is now the new daily average for artillery systems lost per day. That's incredible. So that's shifted up. I was still thinking in terms of sort of 20 to 21. It's now well over 23 a day. Absolutely incredible. And you can see the 30-day rolling average at the moment is 55. So you're losing 55 every single day for 30 days. That is just incredible. That's actually popped down in the last week. The last week's 47.43. So that's still an incredible number, right? So when you go back to something like this, a Nemesis regiment has disabled 160 artillery systems, mainly in a cross direction. They've also destroyed over 110 reconnaissance and communication assets, including Starlink terminals and FPV drone positions. On the Kharkiv front, they thwarted Russian attempts to cross rivers. So the Nemesis drone group seems to be doing a good job. In fact, I was speaking to someone yesterday talking about what's been... so I can actually do that. That doesn't show up there. That's lucky because that was a private conversation. I thought I got myself in trouble. Talking about these sort of huge convoys being destroyed on the front line. So we've had ones up in the sort of Chasiv Yar area. We've had ones in the Karakova direction, in the Pokrovsk direction, Zaporizhia. Zaporizhia is the one with like 100 motorcycles, and that huge convoy destroyed, and then other various ones around Malotokmachka recently. And the guy I was speaking to was saying, look, it's just, they're just getting wiped out by a drone wall. Bunch of battalions just doing a really good effort, such as Rome and Nemesis. So here's Nemesis doing that really good effort, as you can see in front of you, or one of the Nemesis units. And this guy was saying, look, they're just some really good drone units doing their stuff, but Ukraine can't afford to lose an inch where this guy is, or it put certain places in artillery range. And there have been some wake-up calls. But it's a tough and constant fight. Anything within 10 kilometers on our side is basically under threat. We have to use careful planning. I think what's happening is Ukraine is really implementing a layered drone defense almost organically out of necessity, maybe haphazard and ad hoc, but you've got relatively thin infantry close to the zero line. This is something I've talked about before. This is really, really important. So you have... I guess, well, I was going to show you a map, but basically you have a case where the Ukrainians, I think, are substituting humans with drones because they don't have enough humans to properly defend the entire front line as much as they would like. And so what they're doing is trying to create a corridor where you can't move through it because everything is able to be spotted. There's no such thing as, Dom Nichols was talking about this with Jonathan Fink on Silicon Curtain the other day. There's no surprise anymore on the battlefield. You can see what's coming because you've got eyes in the sky the entire time. And what that means, if the Russians are still going to be throwing these big, long convoys at the Ukrainians in the same way that they did bloody 3 years ago, then they haven't really learnt anything. They're not really adapting to the battlefield situation. Yes, they are grinding on because eventually they make these, they do, take territory, but it comes at an inordinate cost because they're throwing all this equipment and material and personnel at the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians are just taking out those columns before they get to the contact line. And what that then means is you don't need to have as many, if that's successful, you don't need as many people defending the contact line. Now, the problem is for the Ukrainians is as they spread themselves really thinly across the contact line, when the Russians are able on occasion to punch through, it means that there isn't actually that much resistance to meet them once you get past the drone wall, if you like. And I really think that's what's going on at the moment. So this guy says, look, you've got relatively thin infantry close to the zero line, and then the FPV drone units some kilometers back, and tanks that are basically short-range artillery, and then you got your normal long-range artillery, and then your fixed-wing drones doing long-range reconnaissance and bombing runs from like 20 or more kilometers behind the zero line. And yeah, you've got different mixes of reserve infantry, but they're pretty thinly spread. And this is kind of coming out of necessity, that substitution. They don't have the boots on the ground, so they are having to use all these drone units, but the communication between them might not necessarily be brilliant, and you've got people sitting in trenches that aren't necessarily, and this has been an issue right throughout the war, not being able to communicate particularly well with the people if they're in a different unit, but they're only like hundreds of meters that way. That's the same for the Russians. That's been a big complaint from the Russians for a long time as well. But yeah, and then talking about how you've suddenly got as well not suddenly, I suppose that you just go back a few kilometers from the front line and you've got people still trying to live their lives in these houses, walk their dogs and stuff, and they're like, holy crap, you do realize you're right on the freaking contact line there. But yeah, so I think you are seeing the Ukrainians lean really, really heavily on drones because they have to, out of necessity, because they don't have the troops on the front line, and they probably don't have the recruitment for those troops on the front line, the contact line, because who would want to be, if you've got a choice, right, you can either, here's an assault rifle, you go sit in a trench and then try and shoot people as they run at you, but you're going to have the crap kicked out of you from FPV drones, IEDs dropped from drones, mortar, artillery, material and humans running at you, or you can be a drone crew operator where we just give you a PlayStation 5 controller and you can sit 10 kilometers back from the front line flying these drones. Now, doesn't come without its risks, right? So they are target number one, I guess, the drone operating crews, but you're pretty much guaranteed to have a safer existence than being in a dugout on the front line. And so not only are there not enough people to fill out the frontline positions, but if you're going to join up, you're going to be wanting to be a drone operator and not an infantryman. And so therefore, you're probably going to have more drone operators than infantry. So that then feeds into this supplanting infantry with drones. Anyway, that's just my tuppence. Agree with me or not, put your opinions in the thread. Okay, Ukrainian forces from the 31st Brigade have repelled a massive Russian armoured assault on the southern front line, destroying 60 vehicles. So again, probably in the Zaporizhia area. There is a worry that as the summer draws on and you get drier ground, maybe the Zaporizhia basin where the Novokakovka dam is not active, will get drier, and you might see the Russians try and push across there to, say, Marhanets, Nikopol sort of area, or up towards Zaporizhia city itself. That is a worry. We've seen some activity around a town called Kamyanska recently, and the Ukrainians sort of pushed a little, but then the Russians have pushed back there, and that could be a really important place for the Ukrainians to hold the Russians back. Now, repelling of a massive Russian assault in the south by the 31st Brigade, 90 Russians killed, 50 wounded, 60 plus vehicles destroyed. Absolutely incredible numbers here. Airview destroyed a Russian radar station near Dnipryani in the Kherson region. Again, we're seeing some quite high value kit being taken out, particularly in Crimea and Kherson along the coast there, where you've got the USVs, the unmanned surface vehicles, driving towards the Crimean Peninsula and then releasing their drones into the air, the UAVs, to then go and strike 20 kilometers inland, and that's happening along Kherson as well. I don't know where Dnipryani, though, isn't actually. This is along the river, I think. But still, you are seeing drones hit a lot of really high-value equipment, radar equipment at the moment. But it's not just the high-value equipment. My goodness, we have assault tractors on the go here. So this is Gik and Andrew and his team, showing a video of a tractor with a Z on the front. I mean, look at this. You've got your Z there. This is an assault tractor. It's been, it's had a bit of metal added to it, but my goodness, this is an old bit of kit. Just utterly, I would have thought inadequate for the role it's in, just for lots of reasons. and getting taken out there. But having to use a tractor like that, a very old tractor as well, indicates that the Russians probably don't have the kit that they would like to have at the moment. Here's a video I was talking about yesterday on the stream, or on the hits and losses. Yesterday's hits and losses video, and I didn't have it to hand, but it was I was trying to explain how you've got a drone flying through the forest, although as you can see all of these trees are a little worse for wear, flying through the forest and then getting to these obstacles. There's mesh there, and it realizes there's mesh there, and it goes through the entrance at the side here. Then there's something else up here. I don't know if that's some kind of tripwire or Motorola radio. I don't know what that's being pointed out for. And then it goes in, and then bang. And that is a significant explosion as well. So it's carrying quite a payload. Just the skill with which these operators can maneuver the drones is quite something. They really have become expert, and that I'm sure will be the same for both sides, right? Okay, what else do we have? Ukrainian Air Force has recently dealt a devastating blow to the command post of the enemy's 6th Motorized Rifle Division. I almost reported this yesterday, but there wasn't quite enough information, but actually I'm doing so anyway, in the Bakhmut area. As a result of the blow, the ability of the Russian Federation troops to exercise control in the Pokrovsky direction was significantly reduced. Currently, data on enemy losses is being clarified. So the claim here is a command post that actually might well be a fairly serious command post. Indeed, Visioner says, big news, the armed forces of Ukraine have carried out a precise missile strike on the occupiers' command post near the city of Bakhmut. As a result of the strike, Ukrainian forces successfully destroyed the command center of the 6th Motor Rifle Division of Russian occupation troops located in temporarily occupied Bakhmut district. According to Ukraine's General Staff, the precise strike has significantly reduced the occupiers' ability to effectively command their forces in the Pokrovsk direction. At this stage, information on enemy personnel and equipment losses is being clarified. I mean, that's really important. Imagine that is one of these places with loads of banks of monitors, and you've got high-ranking officials and a lot of expertise and a lot of tech keeping an eye on stuff, as we know exists with the Ukrainians. Jonathan Fink has been into one of these sort of hubs and was absolutely blown away at the level of tech, and he compared it to like a Bond villain's den. It's like kind of underground, and just all of this kit that was just, quite incredible. Now Russia will have similar stuff to that. Hitting one of those hubs with a precise missile strike is going to hurt, and hopefully that has happened. Now, as I reported this morning, I recorded it last night. I'm not often up in the middle of the night, so if stuff gets released in the middle of the night my time, it's because I've scheduled it so I can record it and then leave it a little while, because otherwise I clump all my videos together and no one watches any of them. So in the military aid video this morning that came out, you've had Zelensky and his wife in Czechia speaking with Petr Fiala, the president, prime minister, and while he was doing a presser with Petr Pavel, there was information coming out about 1.8 million shells coming on the way to Ukraine. There'll be 3 million shells, I think, something like that, from the Czech initiative, and that's flowing really well, and it's been amazingly useful. And Zelensky was sort of rebutting a comment from Putin by mentioning this number of shells. But also then Petr Pavel said that actually, because of the Czech initiative, the fire rate for both sides that gap has closed. That asymmetry whereby Russia was, I don't know, at the height of the Russian superiority, what their fire rate was. There was one stage it was at least 1 to 7. So for every one Ukrainian shell being fired, Russia was firing 7. And now it's down to 1 to 2. And that's a massive improvement for the Ukrainians. I would also wager that it's not just the ratio that's changed, but the sheer volume. So although the ratio is closed from 1 to 2, I would imagine the Russians have gone from firing, it's not like they're still firing 40 to 60,000. I see so few videos now with shells going off left, right and centre and hitting vehicles and stuff. It seems to be much more about drones and much less about artillery. However, of course, it's still being used, but not only is the ratio improved, but I think the real numbers have probably decreased as well. Okay, David D mentions this, and you take what he says with a pinch of salt, but it's a very kind of hopeful appreciation of what's going on. It's being reported, he says, according to our intelligence in the Zaporizhia direction, after several days of intensive attacks, the Russians have run out of assault infantrymen. So this is where you've got the other day, as I mentioned, there's a massive attack that was repelled, absolutely shellacked, where you had 100 motorbikes and all sorts of other equipment. Then you've got, I wonder whether this is down south as well, another 60 vehicles destroyed there, but I'm not 100% sure. Nonetheless, in the Zaporizhia direction, several days of intensive attacks had led to the Russians running out of assault infantrymen, tankers, artillerymen, servicemen of combat support units, sappers, anti-aircraft gunners, signalmen, MTZ, specialists and others, and they are being transferred to the assault units of disposable soldiers. According to the Southern Defence Force, the units of the 35th, 49th and 18th Combined Arms Army of the Southern Military District of the Russian Federation are experiencing the greatest shortage of personnel for assault operations. The occupiers have a task to take some significant achievements by May the 9th, Victory Day, for example, to reach the administrative border of the Dnipropetrovsk region or to take control of the bridgehead near Zaporizhia. But there is no one to carry out these tasks, so they are throwing everyone who is in the non-assault units into the cannon fodder. So these are artillerymen, tankers, etc., etc. This causes outrage, especially among artillerymen who need to be specially trained and prepared and are instead thrown into capturing Ukrainian trenches. So there could be trouble at mill for the Russians, although we've heard similar things so often throughout the war. Partisans are still active here. Atesh reporting the movement their movement disabled a transformer substation in Saratov, so Engels Air Base, northeast of the sort of northeast corner of Ukraine. Russia cutting power to two cell towers near key sites, the Gazprom Mash refinery and the Piro Group plant and mobilization center. So good stuff there from partisans. Right, in my breaking news update, I reported that the Ukrainians are attacking into Kursk by Tetkino, but possibly a few other places, Novi Put, up towards maybe Glushkova, or certainly in that district below the river as it comes along before coming south. I probably would have to show you on a map. I didn't want to go into too much detail because I've done it in my breaking news update. But here's Andrew Perpetua's map, and right up here in the Kursk Oblast, we have the area where they used to be, all the way up here, and then they wanted to gain control of this area beneath the same river as it comes down here, and doglegs across there, and then comes down here through Tetkino. There's the bridge at Zvanoye had already been blown up last year, as was the case with two other bridges. That was destroyed again last night, probably been fixed to be destroyed again at Zvanoye, with the Ukrainians apparently concentrating around Tetkino, but also claims that they are around Novi Put over here, and maybe up here, I'm not really sure. But yeah, differing claims from Russians reporting Ukrainian forces have launched a new push into the Kursk region with a focus on Tetkino. According to them, after missile strikes hit bridges overnight, armoured units moved in and mine-clearing vehicles, leading to intense fighting. Here, a claim is 250 troops with 15 units or more of heavy equipment have attempted to break through near Tetkino. There are claims that that's the Zvanoye bridge being taken out. Interceptor drones trying to clear the skies of Russian reconnaissance drones. Ukrainian drones usage has increased sharply, and attacks around Tetkino. They're working on crossings and logistics on the border. The Ukrainians are making passages in through their minefields, etc., etc. So that has led to breakthroughs potentially at these Dragon's Teeth, as you can see there. But the Ukrainians have also, while they have used breaching vehicles, some of them have been destroyed. According to Russians, some vehicles unfortunately were destroyed, but you've got a number of them caught on Russian monitors there. Ukrainian mine breaching vehicles in the lens of Russian drones, according to them, a UR-77 and IMR were destroyed. But I imagine this would just be a kick in the teeth for Putin as he has Victory Day on the near horizon. This is going to be an attempt, I think, to dampen the elation of Victory Day for the Russians. As the Ukrainians have been pushed out of Kursk, if they are then going to push in, albeit in a minor way, this is going to rankle with Putin. Right, moving on to distant strikes. There were 116 drones sent into Ukrainian airspace last night, and the interception rate was one of the worst that we have seen. 116 drones sent in, 42 shot down, 21 suppressed. That makes 63, leaving, 53 to have got through. That's like almost half. That's a really terrible interception rate, comparatively speaking. Now, 116 is less than we have seen, fewer drones than we've seen for the last 3 or 4 nights, but still, that's not good. 2 Iskander missiles also appearing to get through. A ballistic missile. So that is definitely a shame. I've not heard of any sort of battle damage assessment. I know nothing of any strike. So oddly, on the night where the most drones have got through, we're hearing the least. That might be bad news, because normally when you hear about drone attacks, you hear about them hitting residential areas, which means they're not, it sounds horrible, but from a military point of view, you would prefer residential areas to get hit than actual military targets. Now, I say that from a kind of non-emotional, very military strategic point of view. You would rather have a residential building get damaged, hopefully no deaths, than something like an air defense system get taken out, or a missile silo, or whatever. So when there is no news coming about 53 drones getting through, I do worry that they are potentially hitting a lot of military targets, because that's what you don't hear about. Anyway, let me know what you think. Deeper and deeper, though, on the other side of the coin here, with the Ukrainians firing drones into Russia. Over 2,500 kilometers, Russia launches Kovyo, so that's the carpet, the airport safety protocol, activated when unidentified objects are detected. So they close down the airports. It's called the carpet plan. This is at Nadim Airport, Yamalo-Nenets Autonomous District, after drones reached deep into its territory last night. Russia claims that 26 drones were intercepted, 2,500 kilometers into Russia. That's absolutely incredible. A little bit more news. Drones attacked Moscow at night. Russian capital mayor Sobyanin said that an attack by 4 drones flying to Moscow had been repelled. I don't think Russia are going to suffer too much when their victory parade is going on. What I think Ukraine are going to be doing is playing up attacking Moscow. I think they're going to throw, as they are at the moment, throw a few drones into Moscow at night to show, look at what we can do, keep the Russians absolutely panicking, and then force the Russians to overreact, bring loads of air defenses into Russia, and then actually into Moscow, but Moscow doesn't actually meaningfully get attacked by the Ukrainians, and they'll concentrate on areas where maybe the Russians have extracted their air defenses. And that's what I've been saying for a few days now, and it's interesting that a number of people are saying this as well. So anyway, Tim White says Russia closed Petrozadovsk airport amid a drone threat. That was yesterday. It only reopened an hour and a half later. The notable thing is it's much further north of even St. Petersburg, less than 200 kilometers from the border with Finland. So we heard that Murmansk was targeted yesterday, and here again, places really far away from the border. I think Ukraine are flexing and saying, look what we can do, look how far we can strike. Then, ahead of Putin's Victory Day parade, Ukrainian drones have reportedly targeted Moscow, as I just said before. Moscow Mayor Sobyanin said that a bunch was shot down near the town of Podolsk, just south of the capital. But then this plays into the Budanov PsyOpsy type thing. So unconfirmed rumors suggest Russia has deployed 280 air defense units for May the 9th parade in Moscow, with additional assistance from Kazan and Grozny. The defense includes Don-2N, Nebo M radars, S-400s and Pantsir S-1s and Tor M2s on the rooftops. If this is true, this is panic mode. Exactly what I said would happen. Jay in Kiev says, it's almost like Ukraine conned Putin into moving all Russia's air defense systems to Moscow so Ukraine can devastate some juicy targets elsewhere. That's what I was saying. Now, if they'd taken them from Grozny and Kazan, maybe that's Russia being as clever as they can be, which is, right, if we are going to take air defense systems, where is it fairly safe at the moment? Like, Ukraine aren't really concentrating on Chechnya. There have been the odd drones going over that way, but not to any significant degree. So let's take all the air defense systems from there and, elsewhere. So they will obviously take the least crucial air defense, least crucially placed air defense systems from around the Russian Federation and pour them into Moscow, which then makes it not as effective, obviously, as Russia would want, not as effective for the Ukrainians to then strike where they've taken those air defense units from, because that they're like the least valuable areas. But nonetheless, I think there's some sort of clever psychological interplay going on here. Moscow residents report mobile network disruptions during the Victory Day parade rehearsal. Users from Beeline, MTS, Megafon, Tele2 and Yota saw outages. Some received SMS warnings about possible internet restrictions due to security measures. So they're getting ready, as they did, I think, last year for the Victory Day parade, by shutting off all internet connections, and that obviously upsets locals. Now, moving on to other bits and pieces, Spencer Hakimian talking about oil again. I've been mentioning this the last few days, but the price is still, dropping. Oil in complete free fall, he says, $55 now per barrel. $50 is a break even. Any more downside pressure here, and drills stop going into the ground, and pink slips start showing up. And actually, you get to a point where there's definitely a contradiction, almost a contradiction, in the kind of Trumpian approach to drill, baby, drill, and driving down the oil prices. Because if you drive down the oil prices too much, then it becomes not cost effective to drill. You only want to drill when you're getting really high value per dollar value per barrel. If you're only at $50 a barrel, you are not going to drill. It's not worth doing that. So you can't have both really low oil prices and drill, baby, drill. But this is all going to be about, well, it's not going to be about this. The collateral of this is that Russia gets screwed over, as I've mentioned, and possibly behind this is, yes, I can't think of the word. Kept trying to think cabal, although that's pretty accurate. Cartel of OPEC wanting to control prices and keep some of their members, like Kazakhstan and I think it was Iraq, in order. They want to then flood the market with lots of oil, bringing the prices down and keeping the supply up. That might also act to hurt the US oil production, by point of fact that shale oil can't produce when it's that low because it has higher extraction costs. So that damages the shale oil industry in the US and also stops them drilling for more. And so there are lots of movements going on there, but the end result is Russia will suffer. Indeed, No Reports says Russia is on the brink of an economic crisis due to war spending. Ukraine's intelligence has warned. Next week, the Kremlin plans to raise its budget deficit by 250%. From $12 billion to $42 billion. So they are planning on losing $42 billion this year because of the rising costs of the war and the lowered incomes from hydrocarbons. And they're having to revise that from 12 billion. They're multiplying that by like 3.5 to 42 billion. That's absolutely horrendous. Expenses far exceed revenue, says Noel Reports there. And indeed, the Russian newspapers are reacting to this. So this is happening. Today's Russian papers on their economic problems. Quote, Russians braced for unprecedented rise in utility bills, and Saudi Arabia ready to reduce oil prices to $50. That threatens Russia with budget cuts. And another headline, Russian authorities triple budget deficit forecast, as we just heard. So things are not looking good for Russia. That's excellent for Ukraine. Now, Russian sources claim that that the Kremlin halted talks preparations with Trump over the Ukraine-US mineral deal. So apparently that US-Ukraine mineral deal pissed off the Russians, and the Kremlin stopped talking to the US. A Kremlin insider reports that top Russian officials are forced to urgently revise their White House engagement strategy. So it was all going very well for the Russians, and basically Trump was doing exactly what the Russians wanted. And then the minerals deal came along, and there's been this opening of foreign military sales, deals with Ukraine, and that has obviously got the Russians a little bit annoyed and got them to tinker with their approach to the White House in general. The analyst states in the TV documentary that I played you a little clip from it yesterday, or at least I read some excerpts from it yesterday. In that TV documentary, Putin makes it clear Ukraine must surrender or the war goes on. So quite how played the Americans think they are after this, I can only imagine. He says, no doubt some will pretend his words don't matter. Putin made it clear that the war, in his view, is nationally popular. Ukraine doesn't really exist, and that it must, in essence, surrender to end the war on Putin's terms. There was zero indication of a change in policy and that the war would continue. He made it clear Russians see this as a long war and were ready for it. It's probably the most blanket declaration he's made over the year, and can leave the Americans under no illusion that they were had all along and have been lied to and manipulated, with Trump saying he doesn't know if he has to uphold the Constitution. I mean, that's an incredible statement. I'll play that to you later. Not in this video, but amazing. He says he doesn't know if he has to uphold the Constitution. America probably has deeper concerns than what's happening with Russia right now. Expect them to wash their hands of the war. The minerals deal is done. They won't change anything else because Trump doesn't want the blame for Ukraine losing, but he certainly won't add support either. It seems the scene is set. Ukraine has to fight on until Russia implodes. That's his analysis. Then we have Trump talking to Kristen Welker from Meet the Press, a far-ranging interview, absolutely fascinating interview, and bonkers at the same time. Just some real bonkers stuff. I can't believe this guy's in charge, but there you go. This is what he says about Ukraine and Russia.
News there. Let's talk about foreign policy, sir. You just signed a minerals deal with Ukraine. It's a sign, it seems, that the United States is invested in Ukraine's future. The Secretary of State told me this is a very critical week. Are you any closer to reaching a peace agreement between Ukraine and Russia?
I hope so.
How would you characterize
I do believe
it?
we're closer with one party and maybe not as close with the other, but we'll have to see. I'd like to not say which one we're closer to, but
that's what I reported yesterday.
For the American people, that was good. We were able to get rare earth. You know, the Europeans are getting paid back. They have a loan. We didn't. Biden just gave them $350 billion. He has no idea where the money is, what happened. And at least we'll, in one form or another, get our, I don't feel so foolish. And remember this is Biden's war. This was a war that was never going to happen if I were president. This is a horrible, horrible war. And I get to see shots of soldiers through, satellite that are just so terrible. 5,000 soldiers are being, look, 5,000 soldiers a week on average are dying. They're not American soldiers, but I want to solve the problem. They're Russian soldiers and they're Ukrainian soldiers. And if I can save 5,000 souls, I just love doing it.
How long do you give both countries before you're going to walk away?
Well, there'll be a time when I will say, okay, keep going, keep being stupid.
When does that come? Are you close to it?
Sometimes I get close to it and then positive things happen, okay? So I hope it gets done.
Your close ally, Senator Lindsey Graham, has a sanctions bill against Russia. If you get to that point, Mr. President, where you're prepared to walk away, will you sign that sanctions bill?
Well, it depends on whether or not Russia is behaving toward coming to a peace. We want a peace deal. We want Russia and Ukraine to agree to a deal. We think we're fairly close, and we're going to save a lot of people from being killed. We save a lot of money, too, because we're spending money like, Europe is spending a third of the money that we're spending. And
again,
it's more
rubbish.
important for Europe than it is for us. Biden had no control. He just sent money over there willy-nilly. Nobody had any idea what was happening, why they were doing it, why they were sending it. And it was massive amounts of money.
So you think you're close to a deal? What will Russia have to give up? Because Ukraine, there's been discussions they will have to give up some of the land.
Russia will have to give up all of Ukraine, because that's what they want.
So this is what I wanted to get to. Russia will have to give up all of Ukraine. Now that properly understood should be Kherson, Zaporizhia, Donetsk, Luhansk, and Crimea. Does he really mean that now? Because if he does, that's a massive change.
Of Ukraine, meaning they wouldn't keep any of the land that they've claimed?
Russia would have to give up all of Ukraine, because what Russia wants is all of Ukraine. And if I didn't get involved, they would be fighting right now for all of Ukraine.
So what he doesn't actually quite mean that. What he means about Russia having to give up all of Ukraine is Russia has to give up the idea of taking themselves all of Ukraine. Russia's not giving up all of Ukraine, as in those 4 to 5 oblasts, if you include Crimea. It's giving up their desire to take all of Ukraine. That's the key to understanding that. So you can look at some of the quotes from this and think, oh, he means one thing, but actually he doesn't quite mean that. He means something else.
Russia doesn't want the strip that they have now. Russia wants all of Ukraine. And if it weren't me,
he doesn't want just the strip.
Going. Do you know that the European Union leaders have asked me to call Putin so many times because he doesn't return their phone call?
So he's saying, if it wasn't for me, they would keep going. I am the only reason that the Russians have not continued to fight on past their current front lines, broadly speaking. Absolute rubbish. They have been at those front lines since essentially, okay, Avdiivka caused a bit of a problem. They've been marching on in that bottom area, but that's been taking place since Trump has been. In fact, the intensity of their attacks, the intensity of their drone strikes has increased since he came to power. So essentially, he's misinforming you or disinforming you. He's either doesn't really know what he's talking about, which is highly plausible, or he's outright lying to you, which is also highly plausible.
Posted on social media, he might be tapping you along.
Might be.
Did you misread
But you might
him?
be tapping me along too when you tell me how nice an interview this is going to be. So, I'm used to being tapped along.
Did you in any way misread Vladimir Putin?
Did I what?
Misread him, now that you're saying that.
I'll tell you about that in a month from now or 2 weeks from now. I have no idea. I can tell you this.
Which is, like, this is really important. The reason I'm playing you this is so important to get inside his head. This is the most important guy for the outcome of the war, arguably, at the moment. And so we need to understand where he's at to see how the peace negotiations continue or not. And he's saying, like, did you misread Putin? Is he stringing you along? And he basically says, I don't know. I'll let you know in a month or 2 weeks. You should know now. It's just a weird answer.
His ambition was stopped to a large extent when he saw that it was me.
No, it wasn't.
That was now leading the charge.
There's been no change to his. There's no change to his ambition. He still wants the same things. He said it, publicly said it. So that is empirically incorrect. Now he keeps trying to maintain that the Europeans, Putin wasn't answering their phone calls. Whoop-de-doo, they need peace through strength, which is weaponry and sanctions. That's what you need to do, and that's what you've not done.
Europe, he wasn't calling him back. Do you know that I asked him, I said, did Biden ever call you in 3 years? Did Biden ever call? He said he never called. Do you know Biden didn't call him one time? And all these thousands of soldiers, hundreds, millions of soldiers are dying, and people, not only soldiers, people dying in the cities and the towns, and the whole
Good, do you accept that now?
Country is being blown apart. I mean, the country's heritage is being blown apart. You know the steeples, those beautiful spires that you see? I
can't listen to the rest of that, but you get the point. Now, alongside of that, there needs to be a recognition, which you're not hearing from Trump, that Russia are openly involved in war against the West. Now, the US has reduced their CIA, or will be reducing their CIA operatives by 1,000 to 1,200 people. They're getting rid of their cyber attack and cyber defense and national security. In that domain, they are all gutting it. They're gutting, or they're completely eliminated the department looking at foreign interference in their elections, so on and so forth. They've got rid of the USAID funding so that all the keys of soft and hard power are being given to Russia and China. Well, while Europe is really coming to understand the threat that Russia poses in terms of national security, the US appears to be going the other direction. Now, The Guardian and actually New Lines magazine have some interesting articles on this. In The Guardian, there's an analysis that says there's a new Russian campaign of arson, disruption, and psychological warfare unfolding across Europe. Russia's bringing back KGB-style sabotage, but now with Telegram and crypto. And arson, that's what I have been telling you for 2.5 years now. Fire is the new tool. It's a very old tool, but it's becoming very, very widely used again. Russian intelligence, mainly the GRU's Unit 29155, now recruits migrants and gig workers online. They target vulnerable people, undocumented, low paid, or simply desperate. Many don't realize they're working for the Kremlin. Recruits are told to do simple but harmful jobs: burn buildings, smash windows, hang flyers, or install hidden cameras. The goal isn't destructive, it's anxiety. Peter Kravchik, ex-chief of Polish intelligence, says they focus on soft targets that influence the general perception of insecurity in society. Serhiy, a Ukrainian refugee in Poland, was caught with knives, paraffin, and a fire manual. He thought he was helping Alexei, a Telegram contact who promised $2,000 for photos of a burnt warehouse. Alexei changed personas: Kiev businessman, Baltic contractor, far-right militant. Authorities later said he was a GRU officer running the operation remotely from Russia. So he backed out, tried to fake the job, and was arrested. He received 8 years in prison. Across Europe, similar operations followed a pattern. In Vilnius, an IKEA store was torched. In London, arsonists attacked a Ukraine-linked business. In Paris, coffins with French soldiers in Ukraine were left under the Eiffel Tower. In Warsaw, a massive mall burned down. Some attackers supported Russia's war. Others just wanted money. Posting, and that's kind of what I've been saying as well, posting anti-NATO flyers, $5. Installing cameras near military trains, $400, all paid via anonymous crypto wallets. After the Skripal poisoning in the UK in 2018, Europe expelled hundreds of Russian spies. Now the Kremlin uses proxies, Telegram handles instead of diplomatic passports. European security official has said in the beginning some of these things looked natural, but then it happens more and more, and you start to wonder. You have cases where there is no proof, but you have strong suspicions. Western intelligence agencies say the sabotage campaign may escalate further. They are crossing one red line after another, and we don't know how far they will go. Fascinating. Then you've got Michael Weiss and Jimmy Rushton in the New Lines magazine saying it's Al-Qaeda and ISIS level tactics. The Russian campaign to recruit Ukrainian and European civilians to become human weapons is underway. It affects Ukrainians, but as they rightly point out in our article for New Lines magazine, quote, since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, Moscow's intelligence services and various proxies have been responsible for at least 59 incidents, including assassination attempts and acts of vandalism, particularly on sites where material destined for Ukraine is manufactured or stockpiled. Czech officials give even higher estimates. Our common enemy, Russia, is dangerous. Europe must be vigilant. Really, really important stuff there. And we need to recognize who the enemy is very clearly. And that is something that the US doesn't do. And Trump is it's important to understand that he doesn't see himself as being manipulated. Although he's like beginning to come round to it. He's saying, I'll let you know in a month, 2 weeks time. It's all a bit weird, but most of us are looking on and going, yep, you're being manipulated and things are going wrong at the heart of your administration. I'm going to do a video next on a guy called Stephen Miller. And it seems, I've been saying now for quite a long time, you will have heard me, Stephen Miller's at the heart of all the bad things going on in the government. And now that realisation is coming through. Even SNL are doing skits with him at the side, just like they did with Steve Bannon in Trump 1.0. Stephen Miller was there in Trump 1.0, he's there in Trump 2.0, and he is the evil at the heart of the administration. And he will be advising on Ukraine in ways that... he's the Grima Wormtongue in King Theoden's ears. If you're going to use an analogy from Lord of the Rings, let's say, he is definitely a big problem, and there is a rumor that he will be the next national security advisor. Trump's actually put that down, saying that will be a step down for Stephen Miller. Now, for that to be a step down, that means Stephen Miller is right up there in the Trump orbit. In fact, he's not the Trump orbit. I think he's actually inside the Trump brain. Stephen Miller, watch that man. And he will have a lot of opinions on Ukraine and Russia that will no doubt be problematic for Ukraine. So when Trump is caught, when you get Trump alone, Zelensky gets him alone in St. Peter's Basilica, that's when you have a Trump that's open to kind of rational ideas and evidence. When he's back in the White House, he is surrounded by your Stephen Millers and such like. And that's when he comes out with this outright nonsense. Anyway, that's enough from me. Take care. Speak soon. Toodle pips.